You belong to the, what do I say, the #1 lawyer's family in Bangalore, if I can call that. So can you just tell us, for viewers who really would like to know, maybe from your grandfather and after that, because I think there are very few family who have practiced for generations in Bangalore city. So just talk to us about that, sir, your legacy.
The problem with legacy is that you are always pitted against somebody.
Okay.
And you are always thinking that, my ancestors were like this, how am I going to be? It's always a great deal of pressure on you. There was no legal education in Bangalore, there's no law college here. Either people had to go to Pune or to Belgaum or to Chennai. These were the three places which are favorite. So grandfather decided to go to Chennai. So they are going to buy a house next to the central jail.
Oh yeah, yes.
And
yes,
then
yes.
this place had not been named as Gandhinagar, it was called Jail Extension. So those were days when somebody who travelled outside India would be excommunicated from the community. Bahishkara. So that was how it was. You crossed the seas. But he said, college shuru ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಎಲ್ರಿ ಜಮೀನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, lecturer ಇಲ್ಲ, students ಇಲ್ಲ, ಏನು college ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? ಇಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಮಾಡಲೇಬೇಕು. So that's how it started.
Greetings from Vakilavahini, a bilingual magazine for lawyers by lawyers. On this auspicious evening, I have with me Mr. Naganand, who I think every advocate in the country knows about. I cannot say he's an advocate of High Court of Karnataka because he predominantly practices in Supreme Court and High Court. And I have watched him for many years now. My also maiden interaction with him one-on-one. And I'm really looking forward for that. And I hope you'll also be able to, a lot of inspiration from him. And that is the whole idea. Welcome, Mr. Naganand.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, I mean, I'm sure you know about Vakilavahini and what we are doing. This is little my contribution, that whenever I feel that I can have some intellectual stimulation with our fellow practitioners, I feel that in our conversations we can get some content which will help people in public maybe, or particularly advocates like us or young ones who are coming, or the ones who are relaxing at home. They get a chance to see what is happening around. And also it is for posterity. You belong to the, what do I say, the #1 lawyer's family in Bangalore, if I can call that. So can you just tell us, sir, for viewers who really would like to know, maybe from your grandfather and after that, because I think there are very few family who have practiced for generations in Bangalore city. So just talk to us about that, sir, your legacy.
Thank you, Radha. The problem with legacy is that you are always pitted against somebody.
Okay.
And you are always thinking that, my ancestors were like this, how am I going to be? It's always a great deal of pressure on you. But nevertheless, I think the detailed account of our family is found in a book which I authored 2 years ago called Story of the Clan, A Legacy Untold, in which I have traced the history of our family. We came from a small village called Mudigere, close to Gauribidnur in Chikbalapur Taluk.
The same place where Vishweshwaraya comes from?
Muddenhalli is where he comes from. It is close to
Mudigere.
Alli, there was a very ancient Chanakeshwar temple set up during the Vijayanagar kingdom. And so our ancestors were living there. They were mainly landowners, cultivators, and that's how it was. And my great-grandfather and his father, Gopalappa and Dasappa, they stayed there. And my grandfather Ganeshra was the only son to his father.
Okay.
He had no siblings. And so he was a man of, what shall I say, great drive, and a man of determination if it comes to anything. So he decided to take up law. So he came to Bangalore and studied law in Central College. He was the president of the Old Students Association.
So this would be what year, sir?
That would be in the early 20s, because my grandfather went to law school at Madras from 23 to 25.
1923
to 25. So this is just before. So you must be in college here 20 to 23. So that's how it was. So he studied here, and then there was no legal education in Bangalore. There was no law college here. Either people had to go to Pune or to Belgaum or to Chennai. These were the three places which are favorite. So grandfather decided to go to Chennai, and he is there for 2 years and got his law qualification and came back to Bangalore. And in late 1925, he decided to join the office of one Mr. Kemparna. In fact, in our old office, we had a portrait of Mr. Kemparna. So that's where he worked. He worked for a very short period as his junior. And then he decided that he should think of starting on his own.
Okay.
And so he started practice, and soon thereafter, he decided to acquire this property where we're now sitting in the 29 or 30s. And he bought this piece of land, and with great trepidation, he told his father that I'm planning to buy a house here. I need your blessing.
So the house was also here itself?
The house was built later. The plot he bought. My grandfather's father was somewhat upset, and he said, "What is this? You're going to buy a house next to the central jail?"
Oh, yeah, yes.
And then this place had not been named as Gandhinagar. It was called Jail Extension.
Okay.
So anyway, my grandfather prevailed on him and purchased the property, and soon thereafter started building a house. So he built this house in 1930 or so. And it was, the upper floors were added later, but this became his house. And as it was the tradition in the past, lawyer's house and family was in one place. Most places we used to find that, because they didn't have a separate office. So they would actually work from home. So it was office come home. My grandfather had 5 children, 3 sons and 2 daughters. And my father, Mr. Sundar Swami, was the eldest of the 5. And so being the eldest is somewhat difficult, because you are expected to follow the footsteps of your father. You are expected to be as fair and as correct as your father was.
Okay.
And you are got a responsibility of looking after all your younger siblings, your brothers' education, sisters, marriage, all those family things. So all that fell to his part. But my father also decided to become a lawyer. So he also went to Madras, and he qualified in the year 1946. And in those years, there was a requirement that you could not enroll directly as a lawyer, you had to become a pleader. And so you enrolled as a pleader.
So you worked for some time as a pleader, for a year or something?
You're designated as a pleader.
And then you
thereafter you become a lawyer, because the 1961 Advocates Act was not there. So this enrollment of lawyers and everything was done by the High Court, and we had then the High Court of Mysore. And then you had to be introduced to the Chief Justice after you finish a pleadership by another senior member of the profession, and then the High Court would admit you to the bar, and that's how it was. So he joined the profession in 1946 or so, and continued with his father. My grandfather was a great achiever. He was a very outgoing person. He was very good in extracurricular activities. He was in the Boy Scouts movement. He became Scout Commissioner. He led an Indian Jamboree to a European country, which is, I think, Bulgaria or so, sometime in the 30s. So those were days when somebody who traveled outside India would be excommunicated from the community. Bahishkara. So that was how it was. You crossed the seas. But he said, become what may, I'm going to do that. He was a very active Freemason. He was a master of a famous lodge, Star of the South in Bangalore. And more than anything else, he was a man with a great deal of drive. He was the founder of many institutions which today are existing in Bangalore, like the Bangalore Medical College. They had record, BMC. They had record. So one day we got a telephone call to say, do you know anybody who comes from the family of Mr. Ganesh Rao? I said, yes, of course. My father was then not alive. So he said, yes, my uncle is there, and 4 or 5 was there. I said, why? And then they said, no, we have in our records evidence to show that he was one of the first founders of the college. So we're honoring him on the centenary. So could somebody from the family come and receive that? So that's how it is. Then BM Srinivasa, who started the BMS institutions. He was my grandfather's client, and he was keen to start educational institutions. He wanted to start engineering college. So then the only engineering college in Bangalore was the Visheshwaraya Engineering College,
Correct.
which is government owned.
Yes.
And these people didn't know what to do, how to do, but BM Sri was very keen, I want to start. So he came and asked my grandfather, college shuru ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಎಲ್ರಿ ಜಮೀನಿಲ್ಲ, lecturer ಇಲ್ಲ, students ಇಲ್ಲ, ಏನು ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? ಇಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ, ಮಾಡಲೇಬೇಕು. So that's how it started. And in this house where we are now sitting, this is a newer building built about 20 years ago. But before that, this is a house. So at the rear side, we had one, in the old houses, you had one angala. So it's like a central
So you
courtyard.
grew up in
I
the
was born,
same place?
Grew up here.
Oh God, okay.
Okay, so that's how it was. And next to it, the plot next to it was our garden. So we had a huge garden, nearly quarter acre. It had, coconut palms, then sapota, then sebekai, everything was
So
there. It's like
interesting.
kind of a farmhouse it was. Of course, Gandhinagar was different. We would be scared to walk out of the house after sundown. Even to go towards, there's a famous Sagar theatre just at the end of this road.
Alli,
Where
correct.
Kempegowda road meets
Correct,
this
correct.
road. People were scared to go beyond that because there's nothing there. So that's how Gandhinagar was. So we grew up here, and then he decided to, put up a further structure, and he continued to live here, and he continued to have his office here. My father joined his profession. He continued to work with my grandfather. And grandfather, apart from BM Srinivasiya's request, he said, you don't worry about anything. I got a house here. I got a garage here. I'll give you the garage. You put up a board there, and we'll see what happens. So literally, the first steps for BMS
engineering college in
was
Bangalore.
taken in the backyard of this house. Then, of course, it's history. Throughout their life, they were deeply indebted to our family. My father was also later connected with BMS institutions. So it went on like that. So he was a man who was connected in every way to society. Now, there's this is a story which I've also recounted. After the state's reorganization, a lot of lawyers who were practicing in Belgaum and other areas, who were there and they had to go to Bombay, with the reorganization, they all had to come to Bangalore. So many lawyers moved to Bangalore. And then, many of them came as young people. They did not have accommodation. Nobody knew them here. And of course, those days, traveling from Belgaum to Bangalore was a 2-day journey with a break in between, because it had changed the train.
Easily.
Meter gauge to broad gauge. All those problems were there. So when they came here, nobody would give them houses. So when my grandfather came to know, he invited all the lawyers who came on state's reorganization to this house, had a big gala dinner for them. And he told them, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾರಾದರೂ ಮನೆ ಬಾಡಿಗೆ ಕೊಡದೇ ಇದ್ದರೆ, if they want some surety, come to me. I will ensure that you will get a house, either that or some other house. You have to be settling down in Bangalore. High Court is here now. So he encouraged many people, and this is something which former Chief Justice V.S. Malimat recalled so fondly. Of course, he knew our family, and he said, I was one of the beneficiaries of this.
Because he came
When we
came from that belt.
Belgaum,
Yes.
this was a problem. And so that was the attitude of grandfather. Always large-hearted, never bothered about anything. Look after. Then his passion was religion, spirituality, go with profession. Now he was connected with Ramakrishna Ashrama. And he knew, I still have books presented to him in 1950 by Swami Yatishwaranandji, who was the immediate Shishya of Swami Brahmanandji, who was Shishya of Swami Vivekananda. 1800 something he wrote the book. And in 1950 he presented the book to my grandfather. I have an autographed book with me. So the thing is that he was closely connected with all these spiritual organizations.
A lot of philanthropic.
Absolutely, there's nothing like personal interest in this. It's whatever we can give to society, we should give. So that way he had connections with the Sringeri Mutt. All the Sannidhanams, Mahasannidhanams of Sringeri were all personally known to the family. Grandfather's time, and many times there is one Balakrishna Ananda Matha. What happened was that mutt collapsed once in a big rain. So grandfather invited him here with all the idols and everything which could be salvaged, and gave him refuge in our house. He stayed here for 6 months, I am told. Of course, I was not born then. Then all the idols were brought here. They were kept here, and whatever steps had to be taken to keep it pure and then go back and install it, everything he did. Then he went personally to Talakadu. This Matha is based in Talakadu. So in Talakadu he went there, he built the Matha there. And then moved the Swamiji back there. And that Samsthanam is still functioning. He went to Kedarnath.
Oh, in north.
Yes, he went to for darshan in Kedarnath, and as all of us know, Adi Shankar Bhagavad Pada is supposed to have left his body there. There was no shrine, there was no nothing there. So during his visit pilgrimage, he got everything together and built a small shrine to indicate.
They must have celebrated after they came back, because I believe those days they celebrated Kashi Yatre,
Correct.
Kedar Yatre, and they would call the whole town and their whole family and celebrate and distribute prasad, because they survived and came back, and that was the big thing.
Correct. Going to Kashi was
Kashi or Kedar
was a one-way ticket.
Correct.
Most people thought.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm just giving you this illustration because that was his personality, and he then decided suddenly that he wants to build a temple for our family deity Radha Rukmini Channakesha Swami in the village in Sondekoppa. Now I was telling you about Mudigere. Because of a plague and other problems that were there, it's a very dry part of Karnataka. They decided to move, and they found that this small hamlet, which is about today very close to Bangalore, 33 kilometers, very close to Nelamangala, there was a settlement.
What is the name of this
Sondekoppa.
place? Oh, Sondekoppa.
Sondekoppa. So from Nelamangala, if you're traveling to Magadi Road, Tavarekere, it's in the middle. So it's not a very big village. It must have had about 500-600 families or less. And there were some of members of our community who were living there. And there was an old Ganapati temple there. And a very big Kalyani there, temple pond, So my grandfather's family were all wondering, such small Ganesha temple, such a big Kalyani, maybe there was some other deity here. So these thoughts and other things went into his head, and he decided to build a temple there for our family deity. And he then went there. He became the architect, the structural engineer, the mason, the coolie, all in one, cook. And he started living there and took a decision that he's going to build the temple. Anyway, there's a long story about the temple. We'll maybe share it some other time. But the temple was built in 1955. Okay. After that, he decided he's going to go to Amarnath. So Amarnath Yatra is, more tough than Badri and Kedar. So he went to Amarnath. And after he returned from Amarnath, his health started failing him. And soon thereafter, in 5-6 years, he left the world. 1962. He was only 61 years of age. And
that's great, he
achieved.
Mortality rate also was very less.
So that is grandfather. Then becomes...
Any cases you want to talk, sir? Remember any case?
I remember one case which, which went to Supreme Court, Lodge Victoria versus T.P. Davar. Okay. It was a case, it's a very celebrated decision in 1963, which he appeared in the High Court. 1958 or 59 is a reported decision. The Freemasons Lodge in Belgaum is called Lodge Victoria, one of them. So one member, Mr. Davar, who was a member of that lodge, was expelled by the lodge for some activity. And he challenged it. And the question that came up, which is today also a leading question, is to what extent will civil courts interfere with the decisions of these private bodies. Not public bodies.
Yeah, yes.
So they're like members' clubs. So the High Court accepted the argument here and said that courts cannot interfere with that. The matter goes to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court, of course, wrote that celebrated judgment where they laid down the parameters and guidelines as to in what circumstances this should be done. What circumstances a civil court can go into the correctness or otherwise of decisions rendered by these private bodies. So this is one. Now, there are a large number of, those days there were hardly, the Indian Companies Act of 1916 was there. The 56 Act was not there. There were hardly a few cases that used to come under those laws. One of the issues that came up was there was a bank called the Palai Central Bank in...
as in Palai, as in P?
P, yeah. It was a bank which was a private bank operating in Kerala. That went into some difficulty and liquidation proceedings were initiated. So my grandfather was the lead counsel in those proceedings and he appeared for them. And among his early clients who revered him a great deal were this our K.N. Guruswami family, who are the owners of Deccan Herald, Prajamani newspapers.
Yeah,
the printers,
Mulla family.
Mulla family is also connected in the sense they belong to same community. But this is K.N. Guruswami and his adopted son was Netkalappa. And Mr. Netkalappa had 3 sons, Mr. Harikumar, Mr. Tilak Kumar and Mr. Shant Kumar. Their family had, there was a big litigation relating to a dispute with one of the editors, Mr. Potan Joseph. So grandfather appeared in those cases and defended the company. And over a period of time, they had a great deal of affection for them. Many leading business families in Bangalore were his clients. Like there was the famous Gopal Krishna Textile Mills and Ram Kumar Mills, both belonging to the Adalam family in Bangalore. They were grandfather's clients for many years. So anything to do with their family, they would never do anything without seeking grandfather's clearance for it. So that was how it was. Then grandfather was also connected with a number of banks, the Central Bank, Bank of India, many of these banks which came.
They were all private, I think,
They
at
were
that
all
point
privately
time.
owned.
At that point of time.
They were not government owned.
They were not in government
It was still in private ownership. So they were also a series of clients. Then many big silk merchants, like there used to be Mr. Y.V. Parsarthi, who was my father's junior, who later became government advocate and who passed away some time ago. His family, they called Yajaman family. So they had a lot of investments in silk, weaving and all that. So their family was also a client, and I've heard many stories about how grandfather dealt with him when their problems were there, and how he guided the family. Like this, leading families were all there with his client. But among the stories I've heard, he never cared to oblige the client if the client was wrong. If the client was wrong, then he would tell them straight that, you're wrong. So I'm not going to be party to your case. I'm not going to take up your case. And if you do something wrong, don't count on me. I'm not going to be appearing in that case. So that kind of, man of...
Some kind of accountability even from a professional, if you're going to say you can do whatever you want, I am there. That is the, mantra which the advocates give now. You do whatever you want, we are there, we will take care. But this is, I think this is a mark of a professional more than anything.
They thought that their duty is to actually advise the client as to what is in their interest. Sometimes, the doctor also, he gives you advice to say, take some very bitter pill he gives you. You may curse him to say, what is this doctor always giving me this bitter concoction and pill to drink? But why is he doing that? He's doing that for your good. Same way lawyers then thought that it was their duty to guide the clients in the right direction. Tell them what is right, what is not right, how you should do things, why you should not do certain things. This is how it worked. And, unlike today, the clients had implicit faith.
Yeah, in the professional. Yeah.
They had always a family lawyer, a family doctor concept.
Who gave advice in all aspects.
Exactly.
Even sometimes which family to start a relation, or where to give the daughter, where to bring a nice daughter-in-law. Also, I think they would take help. So what made you to come to profession?